Welcome to Campfire Curmudgeon. My name is Nick.
And I'm Heidi.
The curmudgeon for the day.
I'm not the curmudgeon.
Yes, you are.
I'm fine.
Okay.
You just made me momentarily grumpy.
Oh, okay.
He was switching my knobs.
Oh.
He was intentionally making me sound bad.
Only in a technical sense.
Okay. What are we talking about today?
You're pushing your buttons.
What are we going to talk about today?
Black-eyed peas?
No.
Good.
Try again.
Black-eyed children.
Black-eyed children. Have you ever heard of black-eyed children?
Just from the opening scene of the 1997 or 98 X-Files film.
I did forget it was in that film. That's so exciting. We'll have to maybe just take another look at that, because I have some films here, just some different things that for our next episode you and I are going to watch.
Uh-huh.
We'll have to add that to the list. And for anybody else that hasn't heard of them, that's definitely a good starter.
For the record, it's called X-Files Fight the Future.
Fight the Future. The Black-Eyed Children...
And now we're in the future. It didn't work. The fight lost.
We lost. Spoiler alert. Black-Eyed Children, it's an urban legend. And this is an urban legend that some people think is true. Mm-hmm. Black-eyed kids, they're basically kids generally between the ages of 6 to 16. They have pale skin, and their eyes are black. Like the whole eye, everything, whites of their eyes is just black.
Uh-huh.
Kind of like that TV show Supernatural, like the demon eyes. They're black. I don't know. My sister likes that show. Don't shrug at me.
I'm saying I have awareness of the show, but not the actual.
Okay. Well, for anybody that does know the show, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Cool.
This was kind of popularized, the story of black-eyed kids, or as they're often called, BEKs, that was popularized in 1996 when a reporter, his name was Brian, he reported that it was Brian Bethel, and he claimed to have encountered 2 of these kids when he was in Texas. Mm-hmm. I think he was traveling through Texas, and that's when he claims that he saw these. It's kind of, some people consider this a classic example of like a creepypasta. Do you want to explain creepypastas?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. Like, you don't want to do that? What do you think of when you think of a creepypasta?
I think of copy pasta, but it's horror-based.
Basically.
So, like, my 2 examples of copy pasta would be, one is, hi, I'm Katie, I'm the Penguin of Doom, I'm so random, me and my girlfriend are bi, if you don't like that, deal with it. Here's a spork. Like, it's just... Basically, it's text that's mimetic. It
kind
has
of.
a meme sense to it.
That's where the creepypasta came from.
The other one is the Mall Ninja. The little kid who's like, I'm a Navy SEAL, and I practice this and that, and I have knives, and I practice tactical awareness, and like, bleh, yeah.
Well, creepypastas kind of came about around that same time period when everyone was all about the internet, or the interwebs, and basically they're just scary stories, or they're stories that are supposed to freak you out a little bit. And these stories are found on the internet, places like Reddit or 4chan when that was a thing.
Message boards.
Message boards, yeah. Even before message boards, some of these stories were sent in the form of like chain mail, like chain emails, like forward this on so the same fate doesn't happen to you, that kind of thing. But this is kind of considered one of those type of stories now because of the fact that once he told this story, it was kind of pushed all over the internet. It was kind of popularized, and that led to it, its popularity partially. Mm-hmm. So some of these stories, a lot of these stories claim to be true. Some of the most popular, creepypasta stories are like Slender Man.
Okay.
I'm trying to think, what's another good one? I mean, we could even say that the Bloody Mary from our last episode has kind of become one of those.
It's oral
that's
history
around.
creepypasta, yeah.
Urban legends, creepypastas, whatever you want to call them. According to mythology.net, they are ghoulish children. And they try to gain entrance into your home or your car. Generally, it's somebody's home. They try to gain entrance into it, and nobody knows why, because there haven't been, at least I haven't found any, there haven't been any stories that they actually got inside, so no one knows what would happen if you actually let them inside your house. Sometimes they'll knock on your door or they'll knock on your window. A lot of people say that for some reason, instead of knocking on the door, it's the window they knock on. Uh-huh. And they're usually, they've got, pale skin, black eyes, light hair. Some people say that they're wearing modern clothing, but there's also been a lot of reports of these children wearing clothing that seems to be like a Mennonite style. You know what the Mennonites are, right, Nicholas?
Yes.
Go ahead and explain it for our listeners.
They're like the Amish.
Kind of. You may have seen them walking around. A lot of the women have the dresses are very long down to their ankles. A lot of them are they're like the same color schemes that I always see. I don't think it's ever really black, but they're like dark green, like a dark burgundy color. Sometimes I see like a navy blue. They do have head coverings, kind of like the white bonnets, and the men that I see are either wearing something kind of that seems like something like an Amish person would wear, or modern clothing I've also seen.
Yeah.
But they say that they see the children wearing this style clothing. Some of the reports have where these children are wearing sunglasses. So you don't know right away, and that kind of is part of what's so scary is they'll take the sunglasses off or the sunglasses will slide down, and that's when you realize you're talking to a BEK. They're almost always in a pair. And if they are in a pair, one child is always much older than the other one, just like several years older. So it's like a little child and an older child, and they're usually asking for help. So it kind of tugs on the heartstrings and makes people think like, oh, maybe I should help them. And a lot of the time they feel this just like a pull to help the children. So it's like they feel these emotions,
it's like it alters their state of consciousness.
Basically, some people say they feel a little bit hypnotized until they realize that the eyes they're looking at kind of seem, something's wrong, and that's what kind of snaps them out of it, is when they realize that the eyes are black. Some people say that they look like black light bulbs, like a light bulb that's just black. It's just like glows. Some people say that they almost seem like once you stare at their eyes, it's like ragged holes. Like the edges of their eyes don't look quite...
Ew.
Yeah, like they're like raggedy. And once you actually see their eyes, that's when you're filled with terror. So that's when you realize that something's wrong, and that's usually when people will say, no, go away. Strange thing is, when they tell these kids to leave, they don't usually argue. They don't put up a fight. They just say okay and leave. That's what's so strange about them, is it's almost like you have to willingly let them in or they can't come in. Some people say that they will have some sort of what appears to be like a telepathic communication. They'll look at each other and just stare at each other and suddenly, know what the other one's thinking. It seems like they're communicating without speaking. Some people say they even think that maybe the children actually never spoke to them, that they just had a completely telepathic communication. Or if the communication wasn't telepathic, it was limited. Ooh. Like the children had a very limited vocabulary. They can't use, a full vocabulary. They can only say phrases I
think the willingness to help is probably more in retrospect, because it's like when we've seen movies of like, how many times have we seen like a movie like E.T., for example, where it's like, oh, here's an alien character, and there's a scene in which it interacts with an adult, and the adult is just so in their own head and oblivious and just making their own assumptions, like, oh, you're the neighbor's friend, and they're just like, the thing is like moving around kind of out of sight or in their peripheral vision, and the adult's just like so wrapped up in the adult world that kids are the only, people that can communicate. So like E.T. can navigate through a stranger's house, and the thing's just like, and the old lady's just like, oh yeah, like here's, I told your friends to come by and clean up their rooms and blah blah blah. And
yeah.
Like you just, or like Johnny Five, like so many just like fish out of water stories where the adult is just goddamn oblivious.
That could be a part of it too.
Yeah.
Well, it's. Most adults, if a child knocks on your door and there's no other adult around, you're going to assume that they need help.
Yeah.
So when they're asking for help, it's not a surprise. You're like, well, of course, these children, especially some of these houses, a lot of the time these stories, it's when somebody's in the middle of nowhere. They're staying in a cabin or they live out somewhere that's
rural,
very far away from their neighbors.
But it's funny, it's an urban legend.
Yes, it's an urban legend. But when they see a child, they expect that this child needs help. So I think that can make you a little bit more willing to be like, oh no, I have to help them. So sometimes their vocabulary, it'll be limited to where they can only say, may we please come in. They'll repeat phrases like, may we come in, may we use your telephone.
Have you seen...
But that's all they can say.
Doctor Who?
Some of Doctor Who,
like
yes.
the new Doctor Who
no,
that started in like
I haven't really watched any of the new one, no.
There's like episode 8 of season 1 where he goes back to the Blitz in London, and there's this alien infection that is it's called what is it? The empty child, followed up by the good doctor.
Okay.
And it's this little kid walking around going like, "Are you my mummy?
Oh, creepy.
Are you my mummy?" And he's wearing a gas mask because it's the Blitz.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And basically, if he touches you, you become another child.
One of those.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so it's very much that, because it turns something that's innocuous in a child seeking help into like a terror.
What's
alarm.
creepy?
Like,
well,
are you my mummy? Like,
when
oh,
a
shit.
child is
Yeah.
really small and they don't know that many phrases, you're willing to be like, okay, whatever. But they say some of these kids appear to be 16, and when you're trying to have a conversation with somebody and you realize all they're going to say are these few phrases or these couple sentences, you start to get real creeped out real fast.
Yeah.
It's like that's when it starts setting some things off in your brain, like, this isn't right.
Yeah.
There's also been reports of, instead of, may I use your phone, the children asking for old-fashioned things like, can I use your telegraph, or may I send a telegraph?
Yeah.
Do you have a telegraph machine? Things like that, where it's like people are definitely realizing something's wrong with them. What's really creepy is some of the stories have that these children are following people from place to place. So if they ask to be let in and you say no, they leave as if, it's not a problem, but then they keep coming back.
Yeah.
Repeatedly. And there are reports of this happening to people where they finally are like, forget it. They sell their houses quietly, like to one of those services. Like the new one now is, I think it's called Open Door. You can just sell your house to them. Never gets listed. So people have done stuff like that, moved without telling anybody, and the next thing they know, these children are showing up at their new house. Like following them like that, which is super, super scary. Again, with the emotions, it's like you said, a hypnotic pull. People will just feel like hypnotized, and a lot of the time it's like they don't notice anything is wrong until they see those eyes, which it's kind of interesting, like that.
There's a lot
terror.
of crossover between this and vampires.
Yes, it's like they can't come in unless you let them, and nobody knows what they're going to do once they're actually inside.
Right.
I think it's interesting that people say they
Or
don't feel...
or they have the ability to like charm or cast a spell on.
Well, I think it's funny that no one's nervous until they see the eyes, because I'm like, if I was out living somewhere kind of, in the middle of nowhere, there wasn't, close neighbors, and a kid showed up at my door, I would immediately be suspicious. Like, who are you?
Yeah.
Clearly, I know all my neighbors. If, there's that few neighbors, I know who they are. I know what they look like. Who the hell are you? Why are you here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm immediately going to be like, what the fuck is going on? Where are your parents? Like, did you murder someone? Why are you here alone? Are you running from somebody? Especially like an older child, a younger child, I'm just going to think like, are your parents waiting to rob me? They send you up to like, get me to let you in, and then they come in and, break in or something. Who knows? But it's that like sense of just like, oh, everything's fine that they give off, and people are just like, oh, okay, everything's fine. And then it's when they see these kids that they get scared. Do you think you've ever run into a BEK?
No, but I also think there's a political aspect to this.
Okay, go ahead.
It's country mouse versus city mouse.
You think so?
City mouse tells their kids, like, hey, don't go into the country. There's this weird demon-like thing. Whereas, like, country mouse will tell different, scarier stories about the city, right?
I guess.
So, like, rural legends about, if you go to the big city,
you'll get murdered.
I hear they human traffic for your kidneys and your eyeball and your left ear.
I mean, I wouldn't be wrong.
But it's
is it Super Bowl time? Because, that's when you don't go into the big city.
What?
The Super Bowl is the #1 human trafficking event in the U.S.
Explain.
The most human trafficking victims are kidnapped and trafficked during the Super Bowl, because human traffic victims are brought to where the Super Bowl is located, and like people that come and stay and hire what they think is a prostitute is actually a human trafficking victim sometimes.
Oh.
Yep.
Did not know that.
Yes, pretty bad.
That sucks.
It does. Another thing to keep your eyes out for. Always be aware if somebody doesn't look like they're in a situation they want to be in. Give it a double take. Maybe think of, putting in an anonymous report or something. Or seeing if you can get the person away from whoever they're with to talk to for a second and find out if they're in a situation they want to be in or not.
If you see something, say something.
Yep. But, sorry, I took that real
No, I was curious, and I think our listeners would have been too.
Yeah, it's something that, unfortunately that a lot of people don't know about. One more reason not to like football. Bull.
But cities are okay?
Cities are okay. I mean, if you see something, say something.
Yeah.
Just be aware.
Right.
But like you were saying, you think that it's like a scary, like, don't go in the country
Yeah,
story?
I think I guess. It has its origins
Or like
there.
stranger danger.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people just instinctively don't trust strangers, especially, if you grew up in like the 90s and your parents were just like bombarding you with stories of dead children.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't go anywhere, you'll die. You'll get kidnapped. I think you got to get away from that a little bit.
I got some of that. When I was a kid, we were going to do a family trip to Chicago. This was in like 1988, I think, and I was just in like first or second grade. And you're laughing.
I'm laughing because like I wasn't even born yet.
Yeah, I was already a small child. I remember I was like, we're going to Chicago. I'm going to make a name tag for myself.
Oh,
so people
no.
know my name. And my dad was like,
No, you're not.
Not a good idea.
Oh, shit. Kid logic, like, but nobody will know me.
Yeah.
Parents logic, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
It was very cute. I was
That
very
is
cute.
You were a cute kid?
Yes.
You weren't a creepy BEK?
No.
You didn't ask people for help and scare them with your black eyes?
No, I was just bad at Little League.
Just bad at... Your only crime was being bad at Little League?
And sports.
You didn't play the sports ball well?
I played it a lot, just not well.
Just not well?
Yeah.
I have a T-ball trophy from when I was like 4.
That's awesome.
I guess. It's in my library with my other trophies. I'm just teasing. I'm sorry. I'm just being obnoxious.
You're okay.
I do actually have trophies in my library, though. If you want to see them, I'll put them on the Instagram.
Okay. I don't know where all my trophies went. I actually didn't have that many trophies.
You're like, I don't know where all mine are. I just had so many I couldn't bring them all down with me.
All my participation trophies.
Oh no! That's okay. My T-ball one was a participation trophy. We lost.
We didn't give them to ourselves.
We definitely lost.
But we didn't give them to ourselves.
No, I was very bad at T-ball. They kept
Yeah.
telling me, don't try to kill the ball. Gently. Just miss and just beat the hell out of the tee.
Yeah.
Just miss the ball every time.
Could you imagine a T-ball team of black-eyed kids?
I don't know. Do you think they have good vision?
Can you pitch the ball, please?
Pitch the ball, sir. Isn't it funny that we both just like assume they have an accent? It's
Well,
like
that's because it's
based
probably,
off the description.
It's probably the short-term memory of me bringing up Doctor Who.
I just assumed like
Are you
every
my
time
mommy?
I read it, I like in my head I just hear them
You turn
saying it
into
with like an
Oliver?
accent. Yeah, like that's what I'm thinking of, like a little like Oliver type child,
Please,
you know,
sir,
like
might I unlock the
a
door?
little newsboy.
Yeah. God.
I just think of that Dollop episode.
Yes,
Like this is what I'm thinking
the
of.
Newsies strike.
The
If you haven't
Newsies.
listened to it, go listen to it.
Just
It's
like
great.
little newsies
Thousands of
knocking
voices.
on your door. But I just think that would be the creepiest thing ever. I think I would probably slam the door immediately.
Uh-huh.
I know.
How rude. He's standing outside.
Yes, like just a regular kid. I'm like, I'm calling the police on you. I know Chris, he actually has a BEK story that he's going to tell for us.
Okay.
So that's going to be, we're going to put his story in here, either this episode or the next one.
Okay.
And what I'm hoping we can do is I'm hoping that we can get some stories from some of our listeners. We're going to ask for your stories if you have any BEK stories where you think that you saw one or you know somebody that has seen one. We're going to read those next time.
Or have you ever been like stuck in a trance and you don't know why?
You don't know why. We're also going to read some creepypastas. So if you have a creepypasta, like a BEK creepypasta that you think is a really good one, go ahead and feel free to send that to us because we're going to read you a few of those too so you can see what we're talking about. Do you have anything to add, Nicholas?
No.
Don't we have a big announcement to make?
What announcement is this?
We already announced it on the Facebook page, but maybe
Yes.
we should tell people.
Oh, officially, if you're listening and you've ignored, obviously, the sources from which you downloaded this from, we're now part of a podcast network.
A podcast network? We are. It's this new thing called a podcast network. What's the name of our podcast network, Nicholas?
Called the Papago Podcast Network.
Where can they find us?
At Papago Podcast Network.
Just Yep, .com. It's going to be on the Facebook.
Yes.
Sorry, you stopped, and I was like, keep going.
They're not going to be typing it as I'm saying it. What's the best
Spell
way
it again.
What's the best input, like what's the best place to copy and paste a URL? Oh, Nick's voice. Okay.
Nick's voice, what? No, it's on our Facebook. You can find us there. There's some other really great shows. Do you know any other great shows on there, Nicholas?
Your show?
Oh, my show?
Yeah.
I have a show on there?
You
What's
do.
my show called?
Pennies from Heaven.
Try again.
Custom conversion rate.
Nope.
No.
One more.
A
A shilling for your thoughts.
shilling for your thoughts.
I think there's some other good ones on there. Something called the Art Tour Theory.
Yeah, my show.
Oh, your show. Is that your show? That's
Yes.
another good one. So if you guys want to hear more of our obnoxious voices, you know where to listen.
Yeah, you can separate us. If you like me, you can go listen to me and Chris talk about movies. If you like Heidi,
So I'll see you all on my podcast at A
Yes.
Shilling for Your Thoughts. And A Shilling for Your Thoughts is currently looking for guests. So if you have things that you want to say, I'm giving you a platform. Let me know.
All right. And now time for a special guest. Welcome back, Christopher R. Smith.
Hello.
So you have a black-eyed kid story for us.
Maybe a Black Eyed
Maybe?
Kid story, yes.
All right, let's hear
'Cause
it.
I did not see the black eyes, but this is something that happened.
So it could have been like a black-eyed mop.
What?
You're just not
He
certain.
said he didn't see the black eyes. Now he
I
didn't see the
black
children.
eyes. It was maybe
Oh.
a child.
Oh.
But, so I'll
Wait,
explain.
maybe a
like,
child?
it-
Explain.
Okay, well, I at this
Did
point.
this happen at the YMCA?
What?
I don't know what reference he's trying to make.
Neither do I.
I don't know. Okay. Well, this happened a couple years ago in my apartment, and I had known about the black-eyed kids. Like, I listen to Coast to Coast, and I'm just into that kind of shit, so I was very aware of it, but at the time, I didn't think it was a black-eyed kid type situation until just a few months ago. I was listening to Darkness Radio, and they were talking about black-eyed kids. I'm sorry to plug another paranormal podcast.
No, you're
on your
fine.
show.
How very dare you?
It's a really good one, but
Have we ever shied away from like referencing?
I know, I'm like, how many
anything?
times do we reference another podcast?
We're like,
Yeah.
go listen to that. Turn this off, and he's just.
but that's
just like,
it's a long running. It was a radio show. Now it's a podcast.
to our 40 listeners. Go listen
And-
to this other show first.
Yeah.
24.
And so I was aware of the
That's
black-eyed
sad.
kids. It wasn't until I was listening to this episode a few months ago that I thought about that situation again. I was like, wait a minute, that could have been a black-eyed kid scenario if I had opened the door, is basically the thing.
Oh,
So
okay.
it was in my apartment. This is in Phoenix, and near the Papago Peaks. And 4 a.m., I'm asleep with my girlfriend at the time. We're asleep. The doorbell rings at 4 o'clock in the morning.
No.
And
right
like,
there.
Yeah,
No.
and then no one, like, people don't come to our door, especially not at 4 o'clock in the morning. But it was ringing, and we woke up, and it's like, is that happy? You heard it too? And then someone was knocking, and so we go out into the living room. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen,
Yeah.
and didn't turn on any lights. Just very quietly went up to the door, and because maybe there's some kind of emergency, maybe there's a fire in the complex, and something could be happening. So I go up and I look through the peephole.
Yeah, because
And-
your place at the time was gated,
Yes.
and at night
This is a
it
gated
gets-
apartment
Oh,
complex,
okay.
yes.
So I would be a little less like.
Yeah,
Because I used to live in the same neighborhood, and it wasn't the best for pedestrian foot traffic. Yeah,
but it was.
But just to help you out with the like,
assuming it would be like a neighbor or something, it was someone in the complex.
Or a lady of the night or a drug dealer.
Yeah, that could happen too.
that got lost on the way to the Circle K.
Yeah. But so I look through the peephole, and there's a person standing outside, and I'm going to say it was a she because it looked like a
Like a
woman
young-
to me, but
oh,
I
okay.
could tell for sure because I couldn't see her face.
Oof.
Like even though the light that's
That's
out there
weird.
is designed to show the face of the person
Yeah.
that's out. That's
Ooh,
how
that's
they built the
weird.
thing. It was in shadow for some reason, and I think it was I thought it was just a very petite woman.
You're like,
it like,
hey,
what's her
hey,
name
find
from-
your light. Find your light. Thanks.
What's her name from The Ring?
No, it wasn't like hair was covering her face. It was
Okay.
just the way the shadows
say
were.
she was
I
hairy.
couldn't see it.
Trying to
And
help the visual for
I mean,
listener.
it could have been a young boy too, but I thought it was a small woman, is what I thought, or it could have been a teenage girl or something.
Yeah.
And she was just standing there, and they talk about a lot of black-eyed kid cases. This intense feeling of dread that
Yes.
happens, and we were feeling that. And of course, if someone rings your doorbell at 4 a.m.,
Yeah, I'm already
you're going
like,
to be
get the
feeling
fuck
that. But-
away.
But this was something even more than that. It felt like. So I was looking
Interesting.
through, and the thing that weirded me out the most was how still she was standing. And so you'd think if it had been some kind of emergency,
They're gonna be,
there'd
like,
movement,
moving,
and,
yeah.
But no, she was just standing perfectly still, like not moving at all, and then would ring the doorbell or would knock.
Ooh.
And we didn't know what to do. We were like whispering, like, just should we open it or like?
do?
'Cause she doesn't look dangerous. She's very small, but something we just told us like, don't open the door.
Yeah, I know.
And we stood there for like 10, 15 minutes, and she just stood there and
that's
didn't
weird.
move and just kept occasionally ringing the doorbell and knocking. And we just stood there like we didn't know what to do in the situation. And eventually she just took off running, and I could hear her running down the stairs, and she was just gone.
4
that's weird.
a.m.
At 4 a.m., yes. And they didn't, like, you would think if it was some kind of emergency, she would have gone to our neighbors who are next door in the apartment complex. We would hear her go over there and knock on their door or something.
But no, she ran down the stairs.
She ran right down the stairs and just
Maybe she's trying to
left.
buy drugs and realized she was at the wrong apartment. Was like,
Possibly.
Fuck.
That's possible. I mean, that's probably what it was, realistically. But just, and because at the time I didn't think, oh my God, that was probably a black-eyed child. Because, again, we didn't open the door.
That's
we
weird,
didn't
though, that
see
you
the
couldn't
eyes.
see her face.
Yeah, the way the light is designed for that. So that you can see if you look out your peephole, and I don't know why we couldn't see her face. But we couldn't. It was just in shadow. Yeah.
Looking out a peephole.
I know. As soon as that came out of my mouth,
It's
I
at
was
a
like,
peephole,
ugh.
not a glory hole.
No, just he's got a peephole. That's
Still the
kidding.
peephole. What else is it called? It's called a peephole.
It is. It's a peephole. You peep at it.
Yeah. So that was
That's a peephole.
also when they describe when they
Did you
describe
see his eyebrows? Like,
No, I didn't.
They're just wiggling all over the place because he's so.
two caterpillars.
Thank you.
No, they're well groomed. They're fine.
Yes.
Well-groomed caterpillars.
Well-groomed caterpillars.
But with
I'm breaking new ground in like adjectives said about myself today.
Are we also breaking your heart?
No, well, I'm gonna go home and like pluck my eyebrows.
No, he's gonna come back with no eyebrows. We're gonna be like, "What have we done?" No,
I'm auditioning for the Matrix reboot.
that's okay. I'll draw them on for you. I'm real good.
Oh no.
like the Mystery Science Theater when he gets rid of his eyelashes. Because he found out they're like parasites in his eyelashes.
yeah.
So even though they shaved his eyebrows, not his eyelashes, but then there was all kinds of trash around his eyes, like little bits of like cans and stuff, because he found out that the eyelashes protect your eyes from trash getting in there.
I don't remember that
Okay,
cutscene.
well,
Yeah.
it was a funny moment.
Well,
Okay, but anyway, the black-eyed kids. Something that's also described with them is their clothing is very drab and generic. And usually very
like they wear like a barrel with straps.
no
Like old timey naked.
the most common one is
Old-timey
actually
naked?
yeah, back in the olden days when they would be in their long underwear in a barrel. That's how
all
they
right.
did it back then.
Is that how they did it back then?
That was a cliche.
According
of,
to
like,
cartoons, yeah.
naked person would find a
Cartoons
barrel
are
with
you
straps.
watching?
Like Looney Tunes and shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
The opening
Racist
of
ones.
Freakazoid. Not that Freakazoid is racist, but
No, I'm.
Oh, I was
that
like,
was in
is it?
that was in the enlightened 90s.
If you watch
but-
old enough Looney Tunes, Tom
Oh,
and
yeah,
Jerry,
yeah.
you know.
But she was wearing what's most commonly described what their black-eyed children are wearing is a gray hoodie, and that's what she was wearing.
I actually hadn't heard that.
Are you my
That wasn't something that I had found when I was doing any research.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
That's something they describe pretty often. They're wearing gray hoodies is probably the most common thing they say they're wearing, and that's what she was wearing.
Ooh.
But there was just something almost inhuman about her stillness, which is what was the scariest thing to me. Like that image is burned in my head of seeing her out there, just the stillness of it. And then she stood there for 15 minutes maybe. And,
That's too long.
but perfectly still, except when she had to move to ring the doorbell or knock.
No, thank you.
And she didn't say anything. She didn't. If this was any kind of emergency,
She might have just been couch locked without a couch, like just high out of her mind. Like
Maybe, but
probably,
like,
yeah, that's probably what it was. But still, but then when I was listening to this episode about black-eyed kids, and they were describing certain details,
you
I'm
were like, wait
a minute, that's
second.
exactly what I didn't open the door, and she didn't ask to come in.
wait a
I
minute, the
didn't-
probability of this being a drug-seeking woman or a black-eyed child
She didn't ask to come in, but you didn't
I
say
didn't
anything
open
to
the door.
her.
is
Yeah.
50-50. You're my
Well, but they say
black-eyed girl.
from
Sha
the-
la 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 la. What? All right, sorry.
from the research that I did, I saw that most of them weren't older than 16. Do you think that
No,
this
she could have been
individual
younger. Yeah,
younger?
She was very small.
Interesting.
So for some reason I thought it was a woman because we didn't have a lot of kids in that
Could she have
neighborhood.
competed in the Olympics?
As what, like a little gymnast?
Anything.
Dagmar the Small?
Yet another pop culture reference.
Yeah, another podcast.
Jessica McKenna
Yeah,
from Comedy Bang Bang.
Comedy Bang Bang, yeah. So she could have been, 13, 14. It's very possible. Like, I couldn't see her face. I couldn't ascertain an age. Or even if it was a she. It could have been a boy. I don't know.
That's interesting. You should have said, go away, and see if she was like, can I come in?
Go away.
I don't like
your telephone.
Liz, my girlfriend at the time, who was there. She thought that I didn't get this impression, but she said when she looked through and she got the impression that she was holding something,
Oh, creepy.
like maybe a gun or a knife.
Oh, no, thank you.
I didn't think that at the time, but when we talked about it later, she told me that like I thought she was holding.
That'd be
like
Oh,
it'd be
yeah.
weird for her to see it and you not to see it in real
Yeah,
time.
Well, she
super
didn't see it. She
weird.
said she didn't see it, but she felt like the way she was standing,
Like she
that
might
she was
have-
holding a gun, like pointed forward, and we couldn't see it from our view. That's again, I didn't get that sense, but that's something she got
Could
the
be
sense of.
possible. Like sometimes you
It's
just kind of
possible,
like
yeah.
sense something, like you see a glimpse and you don't realize you've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I
like,
thought someone was
I'm
in my
not saying
backyard
she's
and they
wrong,
were.
but
Yeah. It's where you run out your. Well, you don't have a back entrance to that apartment, but
No, we don't.
No.
Like-
And
No,
go
it was
around
just
the
a
corner
straight
and be like,
drop
what's
to
up?
a bunch of rocks. We were on like the third story.
Like I would have ran if somebody's pointing a gun at my front door. I'm running to my patio and shooting them from the side
What if they think, like, what if they just have a gun to protect themselves from you?
on my doorstep.
You never know.
And that's also why I think I talked about it on your show when I saw the possible ghost in the same apartment
I think so.
when he walked into the room. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the same kind of situation. Like there was no way to go upstairs without walking past me,
Yeah.
and then he just walks out of the
Out of
bathroom.
Yeah, in
And-
the loft.
yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy
So,
stuff.
So that's my possible black-eyed kid story.
It's kind of weird. I mean, you did live somewhere gated, so it's not
Yeah.
as likely people are wandering about there.
But it was really easy to get in
Yeah,
and
you
out
could
of there
get-
without
you could
the
get in,
code.
That's
yeah.
true,
You just
but
either
Wait for someone to come
Yeah.
through. Usually,
or you just type in the address.
yeah.
99% of the time, if you type in
that was our
the
code
four,
actually.
yep, yes,
was our
at least
yes.
one person does the address of the place as their code.
Yeah.
So if you're locked out of a place, just
Yeah.
type in the place's address.
Right.
Well, ours was the apartment number, but still.
Yep. Or 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
1,
So
2, 3,
you
4.
could get in there, but still, it was just when your doorbell rings at 4 a.m. That's never a good.
Yeah, that's weird. I had something like that happen.
No.
The other night. I told you about this.
Yeah.
I was showing my parents my like homemade jukebox that I made with basically a Bluetooth tablet, a DC like car radio receiver that had Bluetooth capability hooked up to old bookshelf speakers inside this old timey like 1940s Philco radio cabinet. And
1950s.
you think it was 1950s?
Absolutely.
I think it might be 1930s though.
No.
Even.
Not the style.
Okay. Well, we can Google later and find out which.
Nick is
yeah.
convinced. 1898.
No, I'm not sure which. You're more with
It's
the
Art Deco style. It's the 50s.
You're more with the antiques, so
It's 50s.
I'm just not sure how long Philco lasted into radio production. But the tablet I was showing my parents, like the Bluetooth wasn't working, but it was hooking up. Like the Bluetooth would connect to like my phone and other like tablets that I had. So I changed the mode setting from Bluetooth to line in, and then I ran a cable from that to the tablet, and it like the Pandora app wasn't working, and I'm like, okay, whatever, and it just stopped. So I hit the power button, turned it off. 4 a.m. Chili Peppers start playing downstairs.
Oh, even worse than a doorbell.
And I'm just like, I didn't turn that on. That's,
Well, and how long after you showed it to them? Wasn't this like a
This
while?
was like a day and a
Yeah.
half later in the middle of the night.
It just starts playing. What
It just starts
the fuck?
playing. And I'm like, I had to go like downstairs and check every
Guess
room.
what the first image is when I type in 1950s Philco radio?
Your
model.
My cabinet, yeah.
Neener. Sorry. Just had to tell you how right I was.
Well,
and then what
now-
happened?
now
The
our-
black-eyed kid was down there playing around with it?
No. There was no one. I checked every I went onto the patio. I went in the laundry room. There was
That's
nothing.
so creepy.
It was just like,
That's so long
oh,
after
yeah,
you
that-
showed them.
that tablet sucks.
Oh,
I had an idea for a story once about a guy that just lives in a house with a family and they don't know he's there because they're all just like so self-absorbed in things. And he
like
just kind of
Auto in the attic.
something like that. Yeah. And he just comes out at night. He goes downstairs. He eats their food and 'cause
You know,
you
there
hear
have been
stories. Yeah,
yes.
this has happened.
no thank you.
And he's just in the closet and kind of sort of interested in them enough, like
There
they're like a
have
TV show to him.
Yeah, there have been true stories
Yeah.
of that, but I can imagine if you
So
make it
freaky.
a funny enough person or likable.
Yeah.
I can see
He's not a bad guy. He has no ill intentions. He
with
just-
this story. I'm imagining Will Ferrell.
Yeah. He's hanging out in your closet.
And except Will Ferrell's kind of a big dude, so he's just
Yeah.
making a ton of noise. They're just that oblivious.
Yeah, yeah. And they're just so absorbed in their own lives, and he's kind of just watching, eating chips in the closet while some drama is playing out on the phone.
No, thank you. If
'Cause
I
I'm-
noticed like stuff missing the first thing, I'd be like, check the attic.
get off the extension. I'm using the phone. And he's just like face pecani sauce in the chips. And it's just like,
I mean, I'm kind of like that at my house. I'm living with my parents right now, and I will like wait for them to go to bed, and then I go downstairs and eat, and then I'm up. It's just like I don't leave my room
so the
until they're
story
asleep.
is autobiographical in nature.
No, that's maybe where it started. Then my imagination took it elsewhere.
Yeah.
But so I kind of do that. I wait for them to go to bed, and then like, I can leave my room now, and then I go downstairs and I cook and I eat and I watch TV and things, but only when they're asleep.
Only when they're asleep.
Because I don't want to talk to anyone.
They're like, wasn't our son here? Wasn't he
Yeah.
living here? They just never see you. Food's disappearing. He must still be here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that story. Hopefully we'll have some more listeners with their BEK stories.
BEK, yeah.
Yep.
Not BTK.
No, Bind, Torture, Kill. That's a whole different
But if they
podcast.
do have BTK stories, that
I mean, I'm down for
I'm
it.
turn
but...
those down.
Anyone from Wichita? There? Anyone?
Well, you got anything to plug, Chris?
Yeah. So, the Papago Podcast Network is now live, which the show is a part of.
Yes.
Surprise!
We're on it.
Yep. Also, Heidi's new show, A Shilling for Your Thoughts,
That's true.
which you'll be able to hear me on pretty soon.
Very soon.
And soon, like after we finish recording.
Yeah, as soon as I edit it.
And you'll also hear Tour Theory, which is a show I do with Nick right here.
Yes.
It's a movie show. We're working through the films of David Cronenberg for our first season. You can still find the John Carpenter cast, which is kind of the earlier version of. Yeah, there's new shows coming. There's going to be some audio specials, radio plays, that sort of thing. A new show that's coming up soon is Slash Page, which is about horror comics, which I do with Dirk Heron. You'll hear him on as a guest on various shows too. So, and then he's got some other stuff he's working on, and we just plan on keep building. You can find that papagopodcastnetwork.com and follow us on Facebook and get all the updates.
Very cool. Be sure to check that out. There's lots of great stuff besides hearing my lovely voice. You can hear some other great podcasts.
In my lovely voice.
That was really good as you were yawning. I like that.
I was fighting it.
You were trying.
Like it's nappy time already.
You know where to find us. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter that Nick never updates. All the things. Thanks for listening, guys. Keep the campfire burning.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.